team of the Pour Horsemen Podcast. You got LP here.
JC is here.
Dr. Phil. I want to be a part of the...
He's starting off on bullshit already.
You're not. Go my bad, brother. Go ahead.
KC.
We also got our brother in the back.
DJ Silk.
And we have special guests here. Now, I don't know if they think we need some assistance or they just want to tell a compelling story. We are grateful to have them in the building today. We're going to allow them to introduce themselves, but we have Nina, who is also known as London's life coach. And what shocked Casey and I, shocking, her daughter has blessed us today as well. Dr. Celeste, please introduce yourself to the audience, please.
So I'm known as London's life coach. My name's Nina Olk. I'm an activist and a mindset coach to UFC fighters.
Okay.
And I am Dr. Celeste, as you rightly said, Nina's daughter, but I am a dentist and I'm also a TEDx speaker and keynote speaker as well.
No, we're grateful. I think something about the accent makes it feel like they're better than us right now. Like, it just makes me feel like they are better than us. So
I feel judged already.
I don't know what it is. Is that what it is? Is the
sure.
accent?
Even when they sent us the DM, like I don't know how I came across. I think it was in that separate message box where people don't follow us and stuff.
Correct.
So I came across because I always check it just to see. And I came across this message, and it was so in depth and so well put that I couldn't ignore it.
Agreed. We ignore messages.
Majority of the times I delete them. Right. And I read this message, and I was so compelled by it. I was just like, okay, I'm gonna respond. And you're here.
Thank you for responding.
You
Casey, let me ask you this: who you think wrote that?
It was definitely the mum.
Yeah, definitely me.
Wait, hold on. What?
Hold on.
Wait, you from London now?
He said the mum.
Yeah,
The mum.
Look. Okay, so now there's a backstory behind how you got to where you are now. So maybe we can just give you the floor on where you might want to start, and then we've got a few questions that we might throw in. So where would you want to start with your journey from, how you got to be a UFC mindset coach?
Well, before we get into that, because I never asked, but how did you find us?
Oh, I got the story, but I'll
we got to let the public know how you found us.
Do you want that now?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So I was coming to Houston for an appearance on something else, and I like to maximize my time in any one place. So I was looking for podcasters, people that represent the community that I could connect with, that are real people, not people that are very showy, not people that are not well liked by their own community. I was looking for real people with that connection. And I could see through many of your podcasts that you were just bringing messages forward, a lot of messages which I particularly agreed with, and some things you said that you don't know that I've listened to.
Well, thank you.
It showed me a certain emotional intelligence on your behalf, but also a need that not only do men need to speak about certain situations and circumstance, but also for survivors to come forward and say, look, I've done it and so can you.
I like that.
And then
you saw that in a couple of clicks on our pages.
Yeah, I'm very insightful.
That's crazy,
Bro, we all right, bro. We don't give ourselves enough props.
You don't actually, and you know what? You should probably give yourselves a bit more praise and pat on
but
the
it's
back.
weird when you just do something
Naturally.
Natural. I guess because we just do this every weekend. It ain't. I mean, we put effort into it, but it's to what we talk about. It's authentic. So we don't. Me personally, I don't think because people come at me in the street now, and it's like, damn, you listen. It's like, that's crazy. No, but it's weird every time somebody say, man, y'all
some
doing.
of the things you've said, all of you, would not necessarily be taken well by somebody. And I'm that person. I'm that person that when she walks into a room, people say, oh, not her again. I'm not a tick box at all. I don't want to be. And I don't think any of you are.
Yeah.
I see you as change makers, people that want change for a positive light.
And see, she's already adjusted my mindset. Like I can tell why she's doing the work that she's doing. Because we probably are very self-deprecating and not pouring into ourselves. We don't empower
deprecating.
ourselves. My bad, bro.
Yeah, please.
I'm not gonna go dictionary on you to say that we talk bad about ourselves at times.
Okay.
Versus empowering ourselves.
Self-sabotage is another word for
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
Okay.
We do a lot of that. We definitely do a lot of that. So, but let's get into it. So, here today, and there's a story why your daughter is important to where you are now as well. So maybe we can start there and then kind of jump in.
So I'm known as London's life coach because I coach fighters, winners actually, people that have won various heavyweight champions of the world. But I started off being born into an Asian family, as in we call them Asians, South Asians to be particular. So my heritage is Indian from the north of India, but I'm born and raised in the United Kingdom. When a girl is born into a family, and I know you have children yourselves, some of you, the girls are not well received. So nobody celebrates a daughter. Whereas when a boy is born, there are parties, lots of alcohol, big things, big celebration. But when a girl is born, everyone's very solemn, very sad. Nobody wants that child. It's almost like that child has some evil entity to it. And it's like a disgrace that this girl has been born. I was that girl. I had 2 older brothers. My father and mother didn't want me. So I went through a real traumatic childhood whereby I was a victim of modern day slavery, meaning I was kept in my room and only called when a job needed doing. So most of my childhood was meant for me, I was either reading a book from school or I had my ear against the door waiting to be summoned. But I didn't think it was wrong. To me, that was normality.
Yeah.
So modern day slavery was one of the things I encountered at the age of 6 onwards. That's what I remember. And then at 14, sadly, I was a victim of a very traumatic, which is something I only admitted a couple of years ago to myself even, because when you have a really deep, dark secret, you tend to want to hide it, never to face it because it's so hurtful. You don't want that. So you ignore it like it never happened. And I was a victim of a gang rape, my father being the first person to rape me. And then I was almost like tossed around like a rag doll from person to person with his friends who were very intoxicated at the time, but that's no excuse for it. And that was all my fault. I was the one who was blamed for everything, which led to a sequence of events that led to a sham forced arranged marriage. This sham wedding wasn't really a real wedding. It was a trade. So at 15, I was traded to one of the men that repeatedly raped me so that he could have me as a sex servant and his wife could have me as a domestic servant. And that was the norm. It was okay. It was accepted. There was no problem. And the reason it was done is because they were retaining honor.
Yeah.
In my culture and other cultures like it, it really matters what other people think of you. It really matters what your relatives think of you. So you will kill for the sake of honor. And honor killings are a real thing. If I hadn't gone through this sham wedding, I would have been killed. 4 years into this sham wedding, it was probably the worst years of my life. I started to hate who I was. And I was one of those positive people that would let things go very quickly. I trained my mind as a child not to retain a negative. I can't change it. I can't do anything about it. I'm going to just let it go. So I didn't wonder why I wasn't loved because it's just the way it is. I can't change it. So I would get on with life like that. But at the age of 21, I was starting to hate who I was as a person. I didn't want to be held down, pinned down, my mouth with my father-in-law's hand over it while he sexually assaulted me or raped me. I didn't want that anymore. The abuse was getting more and more serious. I was being stripped naked, sat on the floor, tied with metal coat hangers. I was left for hours. I would soil myself and I felt very helpless. I didn't want to be in that situation anymore. So I listened to somebody at work. It was an Indian girl like myself, British Indian, and a Nigerian guy, her boyfriend. And I thought, well, they're telling me to go home. And you know what? As adults, even now, all of you sat here and the people listening, we want our parental acceptance and love and acknowledgement. We want our parents to say, you know what? You're great. I'm really proud of what you're doing. You've done a really good job. Maybe I didn't tell you as a child, but I'm telling you now, you're doing a really good job. I'm so proud of you. And I think that's what I wanted. But when I got there, I was met with, as I call it, furious fists. They had determined my killing and they knew I was coming. Yeah. So my eldest brother, my father, they broke my arm, my jaw. When I went to protect myself, when you do when someone's punching you, they took my arm and bent it backwards and snapped it sort of thing. So they broke it. And when I fell to the floor, they stamped upon me and kicked me in the face and everything. And my father held his foot against my throat, which is when I know I physically left my body. I remember looking back in and thinking, I'm happy. I'm not going to be here anymore. But it wasn't meant to be. There was a voice somewhere saying, it sounds odd, but it's true, saying it's not your time. And with that, I came back in, and then I had this issue where they were sending me to India, and I'd been laying there for days. My body was stiff. If you sit in the same position for too long, you can't get up. And I was lying there with literally looking like something out of a horror film. But I had to get up. I knew that I had to make a decision. Do I want to live? Do I want to die? And I had these conversations in my head all the time as a child because I don't want to speak to. Maybe you do it now. Maybe you go somewhere and go, am I going to look all right in this? Look in the mirror. We do it all the time. Self-acceptance, I think. And I decided I was not going to die. I was going to get out. And and I use this for my fighters, when your body's broken, when your body's failing you, it's your mind that controls everything.
Yeah.
It's a way of thinking. And that's what I did. I escaped. Cut a long story short, I ended up going into hospital, coming out of hospital into a refuge. Didn't like the refuge, couldn't hack it, didn't understand about alcohol. We didn't drink. We lived in a very bubbled, sheltered life. Didn't know about drugs, didn't know about those things. So the people in the shelter were struggling with their own demons, right? They didn't know how to cope themselves. So some of them were turning to drugs, some of them were turning to alcohol to numb their pain. I just found it very confrontational, which I couldn't cope with. So I ended up going to my friend's house. She had left. Her ex-boyfriend was there, and he said, I've got a spare room, you can live with me. And I thought, this is a savior sent from, an angel sent from God or whatever it may be. Someone's offering me. Why would someone offer me anything? Who am I? Low self-worth again,
Yeah.
I used to go to work, give him all the wages, he kept it all, but that's what I was used to from a child, never keeping anything for myself. People think, but you live in England, you must have known, but how do you know if you don't know any different? All of my programming, as it may be called, was that you're not worth anything, you serve men, and you do as you're told. Simple. And things were great. I was working, I was happy, I was living this new free life as I thought it was, until he took me to a party, ploughed me with alcohol that I didn't know was alcohol. I thought it was Coke because I didn't really drink fizzy drinks, and raped me. And I got pregnant with daughter here. But it was the best thing that happened to me, I'll be honest with you, because suddenly I had something for me. And when you've had nothing, no ounce of love, you crave that. And that child, when I held her in my arms, I didn't put her in the crib or anything. I didn't let the doctors or the nurses move her to the area where some children are kept. I kept her with me in my arms because for the first time in my life, I actually felt an ounce of love and that I deserved it. And from there, I spent 23 years with this person because in my culture, if you have a child with someone, you're supposed to stay with them. You don't move. You don't go and have children with other people. You definitely don't divorce. I wasn't married, but in my mind, I was in a cohabit sort of relationship. And I stayed there and I endured a lot of abuse, physical, mental abuse. And I was always called fat and ugly as a child. I believed it. So he didn't really want to be with me, but I'm very entrepreneurial. When I had Dr. Celeste, I wanted to give her everything. I never had private education. I wanted to give her the best of everything. If my child wanted something, I didn't want to say no. There was no glass ceiling in my ability to earn, so I was just earning. Maybe for the wrong reasons, but it pushed me. I created a portfolio of property. I created a portfolio of businesses. I was finding a means to my end. I had a son born about 4 years after Celeste. We bought a house together, but we weren't living in a relationship. It was a really strange relationship. On the outside, it looked great, but I didn't know about dating. I didn't know about holding hands. I didn't know about compassion coming from the other person. I was giving. I was the giver, but I wasn't receiving. And because he didn't give, I thought it was normal. I thought this is how guys are, right? I don't know any different. And it was when I got pregnant for the third time that things changed for me. I was being pushed at that time a lot. My head was pushed into the door. My head was pushed into the car window when he was driving. And he pushed me down the stairs when I was 8 months pregnant. And so I can't help it.
I understand.
I ended up falling flat on my stomach, I guess. And
Napkin.
I
Napkin.
ended up in the hospital and gave birth to my third baby, my son, who died shortly after birth in my arms. And I'm laying there while everyone else is holding their children. You can hear babies crying on the ward, but I've got my baby and he's not moving.
Yeah.
And I think that's what made me understand that life isn't normal. This is not how it's supposed to be. My pillow was set on fire as I was asleep. There was some really strange things happening. My daughter went to university. She's got 2 degrees. And when she was doing her first degree, she was pretty young, but he set locks on our doors. So every 11 o'clock, he would lock the doors of all of our rooms because we were sleeping separately, and he would open them at 5. And it was that constant fear. I was living in a state of fear. And then something happened about 9 years ago that changed things. And I think Dr. Celeste probably can explain it better.
Well,
move that mic in.
is that better?
A little up, push it up, turn it up a little. Right there. Yeah.
There we go. That's not
Help her.
Feel tighten her thing up, but right there.
Rackman got it. We good.
So you gave her the dodgy one.
We putting it together. So all right, and then right
There
there
we
should
go.
be
Is that
good. Yeah.
better?
Okay. Yeah, that should be good.
Yeah, so as my mum was saying, it got to a point where I had no contact with her. The contact between us was separated. It was completely cut off. I was living on edge. I was waiting for a daily secret message to say, we're okay. I've deleted the message, don't reply, because she wasn't even allowed to keep her phone with her. We weren't allowed to contact. I wasn't allowed to go home and visit the family. And I was living far away. I was living about 2.5 hours drive at the time at college, well, university as we say in England.
Yeah.
And I just remember one day getting a picture message on my phone of my mum and youngest brother asleep. And it was the middle of the afternoon, and I thought, this is very strange, because I know my mum never sleeps. She has insomnia because of everything she's been through. And my brother was just slumped on the table with all of his books and things around him. And I just thought, what has he done? The message was from my father. And I had this instant sinking feeling in my stomach. And I just thought, I have to call every number in the house, every phone in the house to try and wake them up. I don't know what it was inside me. Some people say, why don't you call the police? But something inside me said, you've got to keep calling. And that's what I did. I called every single number in that house until eventually she picked up the phone and sort of feebly said, hello. And I said, what's happened? Are you okay? And when I was calling, I was messaging my father and I was saying, what have you done? What's happened? Why are you sorry? What are you sorry for? And he just kept replying saying, I'm sorry. And obviously that feeling was making me, I was getting worse and worse with that feeling. Eventually she answered the phone call and she could smell something strange. So she said that she'd call me back. And obviously I was panicked, but I thought, well, at least I know that she's answered the phone. So she's awake, which is the main thing. And she went to the kitchen and found that all of the gas and the gas hobs had been left on. And obviously that's why they'd both passed out. Don't know how long that had been left on for, but she...
Yeah, so he'd left the house. The house was full of gas just waiting to explode.
Yeah.
That led me to leaving, obviously, eventually, and that led to homelessness. And at the age of 50, I'd moved about 200 miles away. I don't know how much that is in kilometers, do you know? No.
Hey, we are on miles anyway, so we're good.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good. Okay, so 200 miles away from where I originally lived, because that's where he was trying to find me. My parents were trying to find me because they knew I'd left this relationship. So they wanted to kill me because of the shame I was bringing on the family. And I was literally running. I was running and I got tired of running. You get to a point in life where you don't want to run anymore. You're physically and mentally exhausted. I stood on a grass garden, a yard, as I think you call it. And I'm into grounding, where you take your shoes off and you connect with Mother Nature. And I was doing that and I learned about affirmations. I had my arms up saying, I'm tall because I'm the smallest in my family. So I always felt that. And I started to use words that are more positive. And effectively, I erased everything I was ever taught and I rewrote my own dialogue. Mm-hmm. So I was writing things like, I am beautiful. I am making a change. And I really found me for the first time, not as a mother, not as a daughter, not as a colleague, not as a friend. Me as a person. I found what mattered to me, and I knew I'd done everything good because I'd read all of the religious texts looking for answers. I never stole, I never hurt anyone. If anything, I'd come from a place of unconditional love. There's nothing transitional I want from you. I'm here today to make some, but I don't want anything from you. And I'd lived my life that way. I say my father didn't teach me how to ride a bike like maybe you have taught your children, but he taught me how to give without wanting anything back from a good place. And I ended up losing all of that safety, my little safe place, because in the journey that I've gone through, I found out I had a 6-year-old sister. My father had had an affair, and I've got a 6-year-old sister called Julia. He abducted her when she was 6, and he took her to He took her away to India and sold her to human traffickers where they harvest organs. That was really, for me, a message, I believe, that there are more sisters that don't have bigger sisters like me. I was once that little girl who didn't have an older sister, and I decided I would record 100 messages to the world so people understood what an honor killing is, what domestic violence is, why a victim doesn't ask for help, the mindset of a victim, not because they're weak.
Yeah.
Far from it, they're not weak, they're just not able. And what people can make to change things, what you can do. And I was listening to something you were talking about the other day about, well, if we get involved, we're going to get killed by that guy. But you've also got to hold yourselves accountable for actions. What can you do to help change somebody else's mindset? If I see a couple fighting on a train, a lot of people won't get involved, but I will say, excuse me, do you know what the next stop is on the tube? Or do you know what the time is? To distract. It gives that person a breather. And if someone had done that for me, I would be so happy. My son was walking past a car the other day and noticed that the man was having a go at the woman, and he'd seen the signs with watching his dad and myself. And he knocked on the window and said to the woman, "Are you okay?" But he did it from the male side so that he could let the man know, hey, you're being watched. But not only that, he sent me the number plate and I reported it because I have contacts. I sit on 2 advisory boards at Scotland Yard. I sit on the Home Office advisory board, and I'm not that person that's going to go, yeah, to everything. I'm the person that's saying, you're not doing enough. Because, I don't have a great relationship with the police because they let me down. They let my sister down. They went all the way to India and said, we can't find her. That's nonsense. She was born and raised in the United Kingdom. They had a duty of care and service to her. But they don't serve to protect. They don't. And unless we call them out, nothing's going to change. So we set up a non-profit called End Honor Killings. But to be honest with you, out of these videos I was making, number 97 went viral last February. It reached about 60 million people.
That's the one that you shared with us.
Yeah. It's a very quick, but it's impactful in the sense of it shows you what's happened. And through that, we've had over 16,000 victims coming from America, the United States. There's so many children that have been forced into marriage here. So many girls that have been raped that are forced to marry their rapists here. And I go around talking on stage. I'm a public speaker, TEDx speaker like Dr. Celeste. And we talk about the perspective from a child's perspective. That's what you do. And I talk about it from a victim survivor perspective in the hope somebody listening, working in the police force or any job or any person can understand they have a due diligence to society to step in, to ask that victim, are you okay? Is there anything I can do for you? The language is all wrong. If you use the right language to even the perpetrator, the result can be very different. If you start off from a nice, kind place, like, I love you, but I just wonder, do you know that this really upsets your partner? Something that you say differently. And I've had men come forward to me and say, I watched my sister being killed in an honor killing. I don't know how to cope. I didn't do anything. I've had men come forward and say, I've been treating my wife the way you were treated, and I've realised I shouldn't be doing that because you're a nice person and I know she is too. Why am I doing it? So speaking out is really imperative.
I had a question. You speak as if you see somebody in the street, a couple going at it, and do you understand that, or do you expect a guy to intervene in that situation? Are you talking about somebody you know?
No, I'm speaking. I do it to everyone because if I see a child being held at the wrist, I specialise in human trafficking as well because my sister was trafficked. And I'm part of a coalition where we rescue girls. We rescue girls that are victims of forced marriage and honor killings too with the police. If I see somebody in a shop, a grocery shop, whatever you want to call it, and the child's being held by their wrist and it doesn't add up to me and my gut's telling me this doesn't sound right or feel right, I question it. Okay. I ask the child or I ask the person, are you okay? Is there anything I can do for you? Or I ask them where they're going, or I ask the adult a question about the child. And it's very obvious they don't know the child.
What about couples though?
Couples, a lot of people fight. I know relationships, I do a lot with relationship coaching too. I know couples fight. But if someone's got somebody with their arm behind them or they've got a hand to the throat, would you not step in?
Yes, but it can get dangerous. I've seen it get dangerous with that. For the person stepping in.
Could you make a discreet call then?
No, I agree. I've watched one time it was at a bus stop. We was coming down Braeswood, and my dad, it was random. Like the dude just came and tried to take the lady's purse or whatever. And my dad tried to yell, like we were in traffic, like, hey. And he F off, you know, like, and then he just walked off. And I remember seeing that and like, damn, my dad couldn't do nothing. And my dad's a cop. So it's just like out here. And then, you know, you talked about culture and everything, you know, in our culture here, like it can get dangerous. So how would you?
It's the same culture in London.
Okay.
It really is. You know, people will punch you in the face for getting involved.
Right.
But in that case, you know, you've got to put yourself first. You're the priority. If you hurt yourself, then what good are you to anybody else around you either? But surely you can make a discreet call. Surely you can take a description and report that person, because they'll go and do it to another person.
Right.
That one person they're doing it to, maybe stealing. Phones are stolen every second in London. You know, they're on bikes, they come straight past you. But if we take note to report that person, the descriptive, somebody else might get saved. It might stop it happening to them. There's always something you can do. Otherwise, you're part of the problem, as I said, not part of the solution.
So from your backstory, which we're grateful that you're willing to share that with our audience.
No doubt.
Because there may be someone in the audience that is experiencing similar or has experienced similar. And in that, you're able to recreate a entire different life, you know, as you moved away from the abuse, etc. How did you connect the dots to mindset coaching then? Like, where did that come from?
So the mindset coaching came before I found me.
Okay.
To be honest with you, I was in London visiting my daughter. She was sitting exams, and her version of the story is probably the truth. I'm not going to tell you exactly what happened, but you know, I was figuring out who I was. So I was out having a couple of drinks with friends, and I ended up in a fire engine. And the person that took me out of the fire engine he's now gone on to boxing, but he was the heavyweight champion of the world. He ended up becoming the heavyweight champion of the world. He was still in Paris at the time. So he took me out because nobody else could get me to come out of this fire engine, and we became friends. And that evening, I spent several hours talking to them from 7 till 11 the next morning. And it was a group of male and female UFC fighters that had come to the UK for something. And I just listened. A lot of the problems people have, they just want someone to hear them.
Yeah.
But also therapists have this thing where they do this thing as, and how does that make you feel, which really gets on my nerves. I didn't have any qualifications. I'm not an educated person. My parents didn't allow me to have education, but I have the education of life, you know. I have life experiences, which I know help me so much. Now I can read a person by looking at them and know their trauma, know exactly what is wrong with them without them even speaking to me. And that's something that life has gifted me. I'm grateful. But I made sense to them. And one of them said, look, can you help me, coach me? And I didn't understand the word coaching, but we just started speaking on Instagram. Then we started speaking on WhatsApp. Then I went over to Paris, spoke to him. And now I've been to Vegas and I've worked with him, his coach and the team. And the same in Ireland, you know, I work with somebody. I sign a lot of NDAs, but one of the
we've seen a few photos. We won't mention no names, but I just so people know, it's the top of the top. It's not just
people. But I didn't know who they were.
You didn't know? Wow.
Cut that bit out.
Yeah. Well, but yeah. So
he's the GOAT, man. So
in that, I know shifting mindsets and working with people, and you mentioned some things in talking with us beforehand. You're like, there's maybe some things that we say or how we interact. Like what maybe do you think about the people in content creation and how they're attempting to do it? Because this is a challenge. It's a challenge to get on camera weekly and expose things about yourself, talk about yourself. Sometimes you may not feel worthy. You might have some self-defeating behavior, some things like that. What are some of the suggestions that you might have for people in that community?
So when I stand on a stage, I always sit at the back to start with. So if I'm speaking at an event or a conference, I sit at the back and I listen to the other speakers. I don't like to repeat things, pointless, don't do things twice. And I listen to what the audience needs to hear. That's what you really, if you can give the audience and meet that requirement, you're never going to not be respected or wanted. And to stay authentic, which you guys definitely are, you know, not to worry about fitting in with the norms. I am shadow banned constantly on Instagram.
Oh, wow.
I have posts taken off constantly, and they're very triggering, but that's how life is. Realistically in life, in my setting as a mindset coach and also as a victim survivor who helps other women and men escape, we've helped men too across the world. Life doesn't gently knock you on the head, it punches you out. And you get knocked down over and over again.
That's for real.
And it's the longer that you stay down, the harder it is to get up. And I tell people, look at me, I've got up. I'm nobody special, I'm me. I decided, that's the difference. I decided I want to be. I've taught my children that they deserve everything, that it's their right to have it. A lot of people use the words, we can't afford it. That's a negative. I never use that word, you know. And Dr. Celeste will say, you know, she loves shopping with me because I'll like, just get it. Because you'll always find a way, you know, you
see it, you want it, buy it, own it.
The money comes and it goes. And you have to understand that yin and yang. And I just feel that if anyone's listening and they want to create any content, to remember not to copy anybody, to stay who they really want to be, but also to understand what the audience needs from you. I could talk about a lot of things, but my niche, my coaching niche, so I'm losing my voice, is fighters.
Yeah.
You know, I could do relationships, I could do how to speak on stages, I could do a lot of things, but I choose my niche. It's like if I was a DJ and I would choose 90s hip hop because that's my music, and my friends are people that are producers from that thing in New York. So I like to keep it niche.
Yeah.
I think if they can, they'll do well.
So go ahead, my bad.
Let me say this.
Yeah.
You are an amazing, I'm shortchanging you because I can't think of any other word. You are an amazing woman. I mean, your story is amazing how you made it through that. I mean, your mental capacity, like, how did you? Do you even know?
I don't, but I know there's 1,000 other Ninas out there that have made it, and I know there's 1,000 and 1,000,000 that haven't made it yet. And that's the message to them, that you can do it.
Yeah, and we have a guest coming on here in a moment also, and we'll have a, you know, she's on the legal perspective of what's been happening in 90s hip hop, the culture, you know, speaking around what's going on with Diddy and the trafficking thing you mentioned, you brought up. And a lot of this conversation is around trafficking as well, that people were doing things without their consent, flown across country, etc. What advice or things that you would say could help people get out of situations like that or report situations like that, especially when it's someone as powerful as him?
Yeah. Or
in a similar situation?
Well, it's really hard to say no. It's hard to say no to people anyway. And when you think it's a dangling of the carrot, if you do this, I'm going to help you with this. There's far too much respect given to these people that hold a position in media, in entertainment, in my opinion. Most of them are bad. I mean, my daughter's always going, well, who isn't satanic? Because that's all I ever say.
Yeah.
Oh, he's satanic, she's satanic, he's satanic. And I throw it around very freely because it's true. I know that they're fed by most people's disbelief in themselves, you know, that we could never make it. Look at him, look at her, she's got a great big house, look at him, he's got, and then we think that's important. But I can tell you, when I was a millionaire, before I left, I wasn't happy at all. Now I'm the happiest person that I've met myself.
Yeah.
You know, but the thing is that we shouldn't put them on a pedestal. We shouldn't. But sadly, people do it. And when I call them out, and I do it all the time, like the royal family in England, because I can't stand the royals, they are...
But to get us cancelled, you know?
The amount of hate I get, I'm constantly hated, not just by the public, but by other charities, because I'm going to say it again, charities don't want a solution. It puts them out of work. I want a solution. I want it to end so that we don't have people trafficked or domestic violence exists. The laws are so lax. They're so sort of almost bendable. And, you know, I know you've got somebody here in that field, but it enables those people to keep doing what they're doing. I can't press charges against my mother, my father, my brother, my ex-partner, because the laws don't allow it. And now you've gone public, no jury will sit there and give an honest opinion. So what do? I just voice it. This is my television. I'm just going to say what I say and speak the truth.
If they were to, because they create the laws of the royal family? Do they dictate?
Royal family don't do anything but take people's money and act like they're of some relevance, apart from trying to take from every other country that they call third world, which is not really third world.
So it's a system around the royal family in which they get paid, in which
the royal family don't do anything. The laws are made in Parliament.
Yeah.
I frequent Parliament just to piss people off. I don't want to use that language.
I feel you.
Because somebody has to do it. I feel someone has to do it. Everyone is very yes, yes, yes. I'm a no, no, why? You know, but they will pass a law. I can't press charges against their father, but I can charge for my property that he set on fire, the pillow, which would be, what would he get for that? A very slap on the wrist, and that's it. People in England have been charged for standing out and campaigning against certain things. But now they're releasing rapists from the prisons because there's no room for the prisons. So it's a real catch-22 in England. It doesn't make sense.
If I was born into this family,
whole family.
Yes, right.
Then you'd be satanic as well, wouldn't you?
I know, but I'm just saying, if I was to be a rebel to the family I grow up, I wouldn't be able to. That's what I was getting at. Like, people in that family. So it's just, that's why I asked about a system.
Why would you become a rebel? Because everything that you would be taught would be seen as
normal. Yeah, but if I grow up, it's just like, any movie we watch where somebody grew up in something and they get 21 or they get old enough to think, nah, this ain't right.
Well, any movie that you've watched normally has a sign and a message to you.
Yeah.
Things are not okay.
Right.
And I believe these people tell you through movies that things are not okay, and they have to because it's part of their culture. But the royal family is just one of them. Even Parliament, I can't become the Prime Minister of England because I didn't go to Cambridge or Oxford, and it's a little niche, a little group of people that make all the decisions, look after each other, and nobody else is allowed.
You wouldn't think Prince Harry's a rebel-minded? I wouldn't say like he is one, but he moved away.
He's not really a rebel.
They'll know better than us for sure.
It's just what you see, isn't it? It's just what you're shown.
I was about to say the media shows us what we want, what they want us to see.
Oh, okay. I don't know nothing about it.
You do know a lot about it. Huh? You're not allowed to say you don't know because you do know.
I just know he married the girl, and I don't.
Yeah, but a lot of it is show, and a lot of it's already arranged beforehand. It's all very much.
They arranged with the black girl?
It's a case of let's build trust in this community. So let's bring this person in, build the trust with this community by having one of our prestigious princes marry somebody from America who's seen as a black actress, whatever she may be.
But
was an agenda.
She ain't J-Lo,
Hey, I don't know. I'm not in Parliament.
Yeah. She was cool on Suits.
Go ahead, Casey.
I've absolutely enjoyed this,
listening,
hearing.
It's the quietest I've seen you.
I mean, yes, I didn't say a word because I was just listening.
No, we had to just listen.
I felt every emotion. Like I watched Inside Out 2 probably 4 or 5 times as an adult. I've had anger, emotions, sadness. I mean, that story was a lot. But to see the power that you have restored from yourself is beautiful. Just to see how your daughter looks up to you. I was watching her as you're talking and just seeing her just like enamored by what you're saying, even though she's probably heard the story. I mean, she's lived the story. And it just it's a glow. Not even that behind you. Like you have a natural glow that couldn't even be put out by evil. So I just want to give you your flowers because I didn't want to have to give my opinion on anything and that. Like that was your story, but like your flowers are needed. So
I appreciate that. But when you find a secret, and I found self-love, which people think is wishy-washy, but when you love everything about you that everyone hated and you accept yourself for who you are, you want that for everyone else. And my tagline is on the other side of fear is freedom, but also I want to love the hate out of everyone. Because I believe sometimes when we hate things, it's something that's been caused by a fear of things. And often it's programmed, you shouldn't get on with that person because they're from a different area, different culture. And I just think we're all one. I believe that we're all one. There's no difference between us, that love is really the answer to everything. So I have an abundance of love. So I can easily give it to you because I have it. If you haven't got it, you can't give it.
No, this has been phenomenal. Please let everyone know where they can support, where they can get in touch. If they would like to use your services, all of those details. How can someone find Dr. Celeste as well? I need to come get a cleaning. Let me know where I need to go. All of that good stuff. And then where they can find all of your content, etc.
Well, initially, if there's a victim or survivor out there, I'd like them to come forward. You deserve help. And we can help you if you contact us, and I'll let Dr. Celeste say where.
Probably best way to contact us is via our website, which is End Honor Killings, honor spelt the English way with a U.org. That's End Honor Killings with the U.org.
Okay. Any closing thoughts as we wrap?
Just so people don't think they can't, because you definitely can. You've just got to stop believing that. I know you can do it, so go do it.
All right. Round of applause for Dr. Celeste and Nina. Thank y'all so much.
for having
All right,
us.
turn us up, Silk.
Man,
We'll
give me
take a
some